I'm originally from the United States, but I've spent the past 30 years in and around the Middle East. It's been a very exciting time. I worked for BBK for a couple years in the mid-'80s, a large systems integrator, and then I started an office for financial technology, software and services in 1988, and ran it very successfully for the next 18 years. We recruited Bahrainis, we mentored them, trained them, and they went on to have very successful careers in various fields, particularly banking and finance. I was quite passionate about civil liberties from my university days, and very much an anti-war activist because the Vietnam War was underway at that time from university days, and it was something that we certainly see history repeating itself today. But then as I grew older, I became far more aware that to whom so much had been given, so much is owed to our fellow man and women and all living creatures on this earth. Rotary itself is a communal effort. Our club is currently comprised of 60 members, and we have one or two more who have shown interest in our goals and objectives, and whom we hope to have as members in the near future. So it's really a collective undertaking. The analogy I use is that a president or a chairman or a manager is like an orchestral symphony conductor. He doesn't play a single note. He doesn't make a single sound. But he makes sure that all the players who are contributing to the music are doing it in harmony, are doing it in good fellowship, and the result is that they produce beautiful music together. So rather than single out something that I would say I'm responsible for, I would say we're responsible as a group of dedicated volunteers doing good work. There are three that particularly I feel incredibly proud to have been part of and or to have contributed to. The first was when Rotary International was able to declare India to be free of the polio virus. The goal to eradicate polio in the world has been going on for a number of decades. And through the World Health Organization and UNESCO at the United Nations, we have almost finished the job. There's one or two areas that are war-torn where our volunteers have been unable to go in and immunize children and or young adults against the polio virus. But I think there's only 2 countries left that actually have what we would call hot spots for the virus. God willing, we will be able to address that need and be able to declare the world free of polio. The second project that we initiated was to contribute towards a prosthetic limb clinic in Sri Lanka. As you probably know, as a result of the Civil War, the leftover landmines from that war have been causing untold suffering and maiming of farmers, children, women who work in the agricultural sector, who either stumble upon a landmine, or unfortunately in children's case, they see this object and they think it's a plaything. So we recently, well, for a couple years, we've received albums of photographs of people who have received new legs or new arms and were able to walk again and or hold their child again. So that's very moving. And it's a small contribution, but it has incredible impact.
It's just so wonderful.
And a third project I want to mention, because it was purely domestic here in Bahrain. I can't remember how many years ago, but there was a terrible fire in Manama in one of the labor accommodations, where I believe 13 workers were killed. And there was also a Bahraini family who had a number of the family members killed from a fire in their accommodation, where the exit had been blocked to the roof, so people were not able to escape. So we came up with we developed a project whereby we raised the funds to buy several thousand smoke alarms, and then Rotary, along with the Migrant Workers Protection Society, would go into areas where low-income laborers and or families, we didn't just single out non-Bahraini laborers, it was wherever there were low-income residents. Every Friday morning, we all took the time to meet at Bengali Gali and Naim and other areas, particularly in Manama, because that's where the greatest concentration of low-income workers and residents reside. And we went in, we actually fastened the smoke, make sure they were working. We fastened them to the ceilings according to the instructions from the manufacturer. I'd like to think it made a major difference. The issue is what makes it into the paper is the sensational cases, i.e. a fire that has killed n number of people, or they had to flee and they jumped 3 stories and broke both legs. What doesn't make it into the paper are the number of people who were able to escape from a potentially life-threatening situation because of this small object with a battery that allowed them to get out in time. Continuing our efforts, the Rotary Club has been focusing on children for the past several years. Starting off, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, where we identified diabetes as a major health hazard among young children due to a sedentary lifestyle, poor diet, and neglect at being tested and then receiving medication to control it. So we put together a program. We worked with a local hospital, and we eventually allied with the Royal College of Surgeons of Ireland to equip a mobile van to go around to schools, villages, young people's social clubs, to provide counseling and testing to try to hold back the advancement of diabetes among children. A very pressing need we identified at the beginning of this year under the presidency of Raj Damani, who has the honor of conducting our little orchestra until the end of June 2016, when Fareed Badr will take over as president. The Pediatric Oncology Department at Salmonia has had a pressing need for a piece of diagnostic equipment that's quite expensive. And they've been unable to get the funding for it for the past 4 years, I believe, going on 5 years. So identifying that need, we stepped in, and through our partners at the Bahrain Cancer Society and through the generosity of the Muhammad and Aisha Al Muayyad Charity Fund, we've been able to raise the money to purchase this piece of equipment and donate it to the Salmonia Medical Complex for testing of blood, the blood cells, to see if they are misshapen, which is a sign of leukemia, and to treat the young patients as quickly as possible. Because when it comes to cancer, the earlier you can diagnose and treat it, the greater chances of survival. So that's a project we hope to finish by the either end of April or sometime in May, before Ramadan, definitely. And then the project that will immediately start the beginning of May is a Ramadan box donation, where we distribute, last year it was 1,200, hopefully this year we can increase that number of Ramadan food boxes to the poor and indigent residents and citizens of the country. I would say to the youth of Bahrain, never give up, even when times are darkest. I certainly went through some dark periods in my life, having been born and raised in a working class family with very little prospect of advancing myself. But I was able to advance based on the help of people around me. Not family members, but people who took an interest in my well-being and future and made the investment so I could go to university. And I often say, many people will sit back and say, oh, I wish that such and such had happened in the past. Well, the past is finished. You can't do anything about it. The present lasts for only 24 hours. What I would like the youth of Bahrain to focus on is the future, because they are the future of this country. And if they are future-oriented, they will look for opportunities in education, in employment, and in doing social work. Yes, initially, when they're starting out in their careers or in whatever job they go into, they will be very busy, focused completely on that job, raising a family, coping with all the demands that are placed on them daily. But at the same time, I would ask them to take a small bit of time and devote that effort towards something that they feel very passionate about in helping others. Maybe it's because they have a family member who suffers from a mental or physical handicap, there are societies here that address the needs of those people. Maybe through their reading they've read about efforts at peace resolution. We have scholarships whereby we can take young students or young professionals and send them abroad to undergo training in peaceful resolution of disputes, whether it's between countries, between religious individuals, between labor and management, whatever. Dispute resolution is critical to a harmonious society. And so I think that will create a very well-rounded individual if they focus on the future for themselves and the future for the society in which they live, work, and raise their families.